Jai Mahamaya Ki Jai. We'll continue with chapter 19 of book 9 of the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. Narada said, O Bhagavan, Narada said, O Bhagavan, wonderful is the story that has been now recited by you. My ears are not satisfied, so tell me what happened afterwards. Narayana said, O Narada, the creator Brahma, blessing them, departed. The demon married Tulsi under the Gandharva method. The celestial drum sounded and the flowers were strewn in the beautiful, lovely house. They remained in perfect enjoyment. Tulsi and Sankachuta both became deeply immersed in their ocean of bliss and their sexual union. The place was solitary to add to it. The scenery was great and lovely, and so nothing remained untasted of the several tastes of amorous pleasures. On the banks of the river and the flower gardens, they slept on the flower beds, besmeared with sandal paste, and enjoyed the amorous pleasures. Both were adorned with jeweled ornaments, and both were skilled in amorous practice, so no one desisted. The chaste Tulsi, due to young age, easily stole away the heart of her husband. Sankachuta, too, a great expert in knowing others' amorous sentiments, attached the heart of Tulsi. Tulsi obliterated the sandal marks from the breast of the king and the signs of that tilak from his nose. The king also wiped away the dot of sindoor marks from Tulsi's forehead and put marks on his round, plump breast. Tulsi also, when both of them thus spent their time in amorous sport, they got up and began to dress themselves as they desired. Tulsi adorned Sankachuta with red sandalwood paste and put into his neck the wonderful garland of Prajapati flowers, adorned him with excellent gems rare in the three worlds. O Lord, I am your maidservant, and uttering this, repeatedly bowed down to the feet of her husband with devotion. She then got up, and with devotion. She then, with smiling countenance, began to look on his face with steadfast gaze. The king then attracted his dear Tulsi to his breast, and took off the veil fully from her face, and began to look on that most beautiful face, and kissed her cheeks and her lips, and gave her a pair of garments brought from the Varuna's house, a necklace of beautiful jewels, and more beautiful than anything in the three worlds. The finger ring of Rati, the wife of Kamadeva, and the wonderfully beautiful conch given by Vishvakarma, excellent bedding, smeared with pearls and jewels and various other ornaments. The king then put garlands on Tulsi's braids and of her hair, nicely variegated. The brilliant sindoor mark, looking like a flame, and red alta on the feet and her toes. He then placed those feet on his breast and uttered repeatedly, I am your servant, and then held her on his breast. They then left the hermitage and estate and began to travel in various places, in the mountains, in solitary flower gardens, and in mountain caves, in beautiful sea beaches, on the banks of the rivers, cool and watery breezes, in the forest where the sweet songs of birds were echoing throughout the forest. They then went to the forest, from one forest to another, and finally to the Nandam forest, Kunda, Malati, and Kumuda, and Lotus Forest. Thence they went to the forest of desiring gratifying tree and the Prajapati trees. Thence to Kankuka and various other forests echoed with trees, sweet sounds of cuckoos. There on beds strewn with flowers and scented with sandalwood paste, they both enjoyed each other to their heart's content and with great pleasure. But none of them, whether Sanchuta or Tulsi, got quenched with their thirst. Rather, their passions were inflamed, like the fire on which clarified butter is poured. The king of the demons then brought Tulsi to his own kingdom, and there, in his own beautiful garden house, he incessantly enjoyed her. Thus the powerful king of the demons passed away one manvantara in the enjoyments of his kingdom. He spread his sway over the demons, asuras, and the danavas, Gandharvas, Kumaras, and Rakshasas. The Devas disposed of their realms, wandered everywhere like beggars. At last they united in a body and went to Brahma assembly, and there they began to cry and then related the whole story of how the demon Sankachuta oppressed them. Hearing all this, Brahma took them to Shiva and informed him of the whole history and the cause. When Shiva heard all this, he took them to the highest place, Vaikuntha, devoid of old age and death. Going towards the first entrance, Narayana's abode, they saw the gatekeepers watching the gate, taking their seats on jeweled thrones. On Brahma asking them for entrance to the assembly, they nodded their assent. He then, accompanied by the Devas, passed by one 16 gates, and at last came before Narayana. On reaching there, he saw the assembly was completely filled with Devarsis and four-armed Narayanas, like attendants, decked with beautiful jewels. The sight of the assembly makes one think that the moon has just arisen, shedding effulgent rays all around. By the will of Sri Vishnu, excellent diamonds, invaluable gems and necklaces and jewels were placed at various places. At other places, rows of pearls were shedding their splendor and brilliant like garlands of gems. At many other places, rows of steps were made of wonderful jewels. All around the assembly, there was the excellent pillars built of Indramalam jewels. Over those pillars, sandal leaves strung on strings from the pillars to pillar were suspended. Golden jars, all brimful with water, were located at various places. All around, the garlands of Prajapati flowers were seen. The hall was decorated with sweet-scented sandal trees, red like saffron and musk. Brahma, Shankara, and the other goddesses saw there Sri Vishnu seated in the center on an invaluable jewels, as the moon looks surrounded by stars. There were the crowns on his head, the earrings on his ears, garlands made of flowers were on his neck, and his body was smeared all over with sandalwood paste, and he was holding a sort of lotus in his hand. He was seeing with a smiling countenance the dancing and music before him. He was full of peace. The Lord of Saraswati Lakshmi was holding gently his lotus feet, and he was chewing the sweet-scented betel offered by her. Ganga also was fanning him devotedly with a white kamara, and the others were singing hymns to him, and their heads were bowed low with devotion. Brahma and the other gods all bowed down to him. Their bodies were all filled with excessive joy, and their hair stood on end. Tears flowed down their faces, and their voices choked out of emotion. Their creator Brahma then, with clasped hands, informed him with head bowed down of the whole history of Sankachuta. Hearing this, the omniscient Vishnu knowing the minds of all, smiled and spoke to Brahma all the interesting secrets. O lotus-born, I know all about this demon. He was in my previous birth. He was in his previous birth my great devotee, an energetic Gopa. Now I speak to you the ancient history of Golaka here. The story about Golaka is sin-destroying and highly meritorious. Sankachuta, in his previous birth, was the Gopa Sudama, my chief attendant. He has now become a demon on account of the dire curse pronounced by Sri Radha. One day when I went from my abode, accompanied by Viraja Gopi, to the Rasa Mandala, my beloved Radha, hearing this news from a maidservant, came up at once to her with a whole host of Sakis wrathful to the Rasa Mandala, the ball dance of Gokula. And not being able to see me, saw Viraja turned into a river. She thought that I had disappeared. So she went to her own abode with the Shakis. But when I returned to the home with Sudama, Radha rebuked me very much. I remained silent, but Sudama could not bear, and he rebuked Radha in my presence, a thing quite intolerable to her dignity. On hearing this rebuke, Radha's eyes became red with anger, and she immediately ordered her Shakis to drive him away. Sudama began to tremble with fear. Immediately on her command, lakhs and lakhs of Sakis got up immediately and drove that hot, irresistible Sudama away. Sudama repeated his chafings and went out. On hearing these, she cursed him and said, "You better be born in the womb of a demon." Hearing this terrible curse, Sudama bowed down to me and went away crying. Then Radha, who was all mercy, became melted with mercy, and she prevented him repeatedly not to go away. Radha wept and told him, "O child, wait, where are you going? No more. You will have to go away." Thus saying, she became very distressed. The Gopas and the Gopis also began to weep. I then explained to them, "I am about half a moment Sudama. In about half a moment, Sudama will come back, fulfilling the conditions of the curse. O Sudama, come here then when the curse expires." Then he appeased Radha also. Know that 1 moment in Golaka is equal to 1 manvantara on earth. The yogi Sakachuta, expert in Maya and very powerful, will soon return from the earth. Take this, my weapon, Sula, and go early to Bharata. Shiva will slay the Danava by the Sulatra. The demon holds always on his neck my auspicious Kavacha, and will therefore become the conqueror of the universe. No one will be able to kill him as long as he holds the above Kavacha. So first of all, I will go to him in the form of Baramanga and ask him for this Kavacha. O Creator, thou also didst give him the boon that his death would occur when the chastity of his wife would be destroyed. I will go and hold intercourse with his wife Tulsi. Then his death will occur without veil. His wife, after her death, will come and become my dearest wife. Thus saying, Narayana gave over to Mahadeva the Sulastra. Then he went gladly to his inner compartment. On the other hand, Brahma and Rudra and the other devas incarnated themselves in Bharata. Here ends the 19th chapter on the going of the Devas to Vaikuntha after Tulsi marriage with Sankachuta, and the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharishi Vedavyasa. Jai Mahamaya Ki Jai. So that brings us up to chapter 20, which has been recorded already. Bole Baba Ki Jai.